Well, the South African Federation of Trade Unions General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi is still joining us this morning, now having a conversation about the developments in Stilfontein. Mr. Vavi, during that press briefing yesterday, the police minister also indicated that you had sent him a text message via WhatsApp about your concerns and also other plans on how to deal with this particular situation. Are you happy with what has been announced now and also this about turn from the state that it will not be assisting in trying to bring these mine workers to the surface?
I'm extremely happy, and the attitude and the fears SAFTU had that there was another Americana loading in Stilfontein are now allayed by the interventions by a very measured and level-headed, experienced minister who himself is a product of the trade union movement, but what happened yesterday through Minister Mtuni was a victory to rationality. Look, we are supposed to be a caring government, a people's government, and who is inspired by decades and decades of struggles against abuse of power by the apartheid and colonial era. Surely, a government must always choose negotiations over enforcement through guns, tear gas canister, and all of that. Surely a government must always choose peace instead of war when that war can be avoided. There was a situation where we were extremely worried, in particular by the minister, who we think that demonstrated her lack of experience, passion. She was cold and extremely arrogant, telling people that these are criminals. It made us to remember immediately the email written by the current president when he was in the board of the mine company that was operating.
Yeah.
Lonmin was just, that name was just escaping me. When he called those workers disturbedly criminals, and that he called on for a concomitant action to be taken against them. Shaveni made us to remember all of those chilly words that led to the D-Day of Ria Pierre, as the commissioner of police, also totally inexperienced social worker, placed there for her loyalty to the then Zuma administration. The next was what we know as the Marikana massacre. Now, Minister Mkhunu demonstrating his ability to think, just to have passion, even in the context of the crisis, knows that these are people, they are acting illegally, and we're not asking that government must go softy, by the way. A lot of people are misunderstanding us. We're not asking government that must condone illegality, must now fall all over to the whims and the illegal demands of an illegal operation. No, that's all. All we were asking for, and this is what Minister Mkhunu have now done. Surely when you're facing a situation of an imminent human catastrophe of 4,000 people starving to death underground because the structure that they are using has been removed and people have run away when they see the police because they know that they were involved in an illegal operation. You need to then say, please come back, guys, let's talk. Can we, with you, work to ensure that we persuade these guys they are in an illegal operation, let them come up, let them face the law, but we want to save them from dying. Our first step is to save people from unnecessary death. These people are being driven by desperation from the eastern parts of the Eastern Cape, Lesotho, Mozambique and Zimbabwe, to come back to the mining industry where they used to work and got retrenched in their thousands. They are now working for half of the people. They're working for half of the wages that they used to earn. So the first step is to let's talk and where are the experts that can help us? Indeed, police have no experience of using ropes to go down a mining industry. We're not asking for police to go down, but there are people on surface who are.
Okay, Mr. Vavi, let's see if we can re-establish that line there to Zwelinzima Vavi, who is the Secretary General of SAFTU, his response to the change in tactic now by the police in Operation Valumkoti, especially in Stilfontein, and what we've seen has happened now over the past few hours. Okay, we have Mr. Vavi back. So you were still concluding your point, and I just want to also emphasize this one as you're going to conclude the point, that does this mean welcoming this strategy by the police, that SAFTU will no longer be exploring the possibility of initiating class action? Okay, we seem to have lost Zwelinzima Vavi again. We're going to try and see if we can get him back. Okay, we seem to have him back on the line. I was saying, Mr. Vavi, as you conclude your point that you were making a bit earlier on, does this mean that SAFTU is now abandoning its exploration of the possibility of class action against the state?
Not at all. Look, the Stilfontein and Margaret shaft is just one episode. We are told by researchers that there are between 30 and 100,000 artisan miners operating illegally underground all over in South Africa. 36,000 of them are operating in Gauteng. There are about 6,000 mines that have been abandoned by conglomerates who exploited the minerals and then disappeared through the thin air. The government did not hold them accountable, despite the fact that government have all of the instruments at its hand to, for example, when issuing the certificate to close these mines, it must demand certain standards, certain regulations must be satisfied. There must be environmental reports that show that they have taken responsibility over the chemicals they have been using. The mine dune dumps that they've been operating are not going to spread and kill people many years after they have left. There is a Mineral Health and Safety Act that says you must seal properly the mines. All the tunnels must be properly closed so that nobody can come back and operate those. Despite those instruments, according to the Auditor General report in 2022, there are still 6,000 mines that have been abandoned in South Africa. Government have a responsibility and it must be held accountable for its failure to ensure that these guys, the mineral bosses, are held accountable. Secondly, clearly government is fast asleep. Why didn't it know who is recruiting people in the Eastern Cape, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique to come into South Africa? How is it possible for people to just walk through the borders that government now admits are porous borders and are able to come and operate here? Who pays them? Where is the market of these minerals? We are told that these minerals are worth between 5 and 21 billion rands every year. That's what that operation is generating.
Yeah.
Where is the regulation? Why is government not regulating this industry to get taxes and to save people from working under such unsafe working conditions, and to give licenses to the people who are able to operate this safely, and so that we do not have tragedy? One of the things that we are not speaking about here, Elred, is the numbers of people who are dying underground using ropes to go down 3 kilometers into the bowels of the earth. Nobody's talking about that, and government must be held accountable for all of that.
What about the responsibility of our neighboring countries? The point that you raised now about the porous borders, We've seen with the police also saying with the 1,000 that resurfaced that have been arrested, that the majority of them are undocumented foreign nationals coming from neighboring countries, including Lesotho as well as Mozambique. What's their responsibility?
It makes me to remember the Malawian international relations minister arrogantly asking our guys when he was being asked, where's Boshili? Well, you have a responsibility to bring him back. The guy said, but he stayed in your country. How did he leave? We are exactly in that same situation. How did these people come into South Africa in the first place? Is that not the real question that we must ask? How did it happen that the majority of the people who are working are from Lesotho and other neighboring countries? Where was the government regulating? Where was our borders management systems? And where was the enforcement of our Home Affairs laws that clearly say you cannot come into South Africa without permission, without a work permission? And even if you get a work permission, you must get it in your own country, so that when you come in here, you satisfy the regulation that says these are the only skill set that will be allowed to be recruited from outside. Where was government? Sleeping. And this is the point that we are making. We have a dysfunctional state. That's our starting point. We have a government that have, through corruption in the main, been hollowed up. It doesn't have ability to enforce its own laws and regulations. And so when disasters happen like this, which should have never happened, should have never took place in the first place, the government then calls people criminals. No, the first criminal is the government that is allowing lawlessness in the society.
Zwelinzima Vavi, thank you so much for your time. That is the South African Federation of Trade Unions General Secretary, and interesting on both these stories that we're discussing today, whether it is about the food poisoning incidents or this particular case of illegal mining.